All right. Well, welcome to another edition of the Unpredictable Pipeline. In this series, we are talking to marketing leaders about the changes they've had to make in 2020, from original intentions of creating a predictable pipeline and still have intentions of creating predictable pipeline in their organization. But 2020 has been anything but predictable. Today, we've got Richard George joining us. And Richard, would love to have you just talk a little bit about yourself, your company, your role, and sort of what that pivot at the beginning of the year looked like for you.
Sure, yeah. Well, firstly, thanks for having me on, Matt. So I'm the head of digital and account-based marketing for Refinitiv, and Refinitiv serves about 40,000 institutions in 190 countries. We provide data, insights, and technology that really helps drive business decision-making across financial markets. Our brand is only 2 years old, and it was born out of the divestiture from Thomson Reuters of their financial and risk division. But we've been around in total for about 160 years. And I sit in our centralized marketing function, so including things like strategy and planning, content activation, comms, insight, and then digital and our account-based marketing teams, which I oversee. In terms of the pivot at the beginning of the year, it's been a real whirlwind. We've actually been working from home working virtually as most people have since March. I actually really like the flexibility it offers. From a marketing perspective, though, we've sort of gone through a number of phases as we've been through the year. There was that initial pivot when COVID really started to take effect, and the lockdown started to happen, where we were focused on supporting our customers from a business continuity perspective. We were also working out how our products and services could help serve those customers in terms of provide them insight about where we were going next. We had insight ourselves and a viewpoint, so there was the thought leadership angle. And then we obviously have employees like everybody else, over 20,000, and the focus of really helping and supporting them transition to the virtual environment. And at the same time, as most companies, our events policy then changed. So no events for the remainder of 2020, and we reallocated that money into the digital space. So that was sort of the first wave. We then had to sort of focus on our initial marketing plan and hone it for the new reality we were in, and really understand what are the areas that our customers would get value from Refinitiv. And also be receptive to having that conversation. Obviously, a lot of customers, especially in the B2B space, were very focused on business continuity, especially initially. So, focus on business continuity, focus on sustainable supply chain, making sure you understand if there's any risk in that as the pandemic progresses, and also the obvious acceleration towards digital. So just a few, they were the initial two phases, but ultimately our job as marketers doesn't change. We still need to make sure that we're engaging and supporting our customers and ultimately driving business performance. We've just had to adapt our approach as we've gone through the year.
And your team has been really investing in digital transformation for the last few years. Talk about what some of the themes and some of the key parts of that investment have been, and how that kind of set you up for success when this sort of broader pivot was forced on us in March.
Sure, yeah. As I mentioned sort of at the beginning, Refinitiv is only 2 years old, and we really used the creation of Refinitiv to rethink what we've done in the digital space. So we created a brand new digital ecosystem, and that's really bringing together all of our outer product websites and portals, so they live together on the same aligned technology. They have the same data layer, have the same analytics, and the same teams that sit over them. So we've got real consistency in how we go to market digitally. And the benefit of this as well is that we can build things once and then launch them in multiple touch points. Previously, when they're on separate technologies, you've always got an aspiration to launch something like web chat on all channels, but it never quite works out. You sort of run out of funding, maybe 1.2 touch points through, and you never manage to finish the rest of them. So that's been a real bonus. It's also given us those strong foundations to really be able to innovate and optimize as we've gone into the last 6 to 8 months. And some of the focus areas where we've seen that optimization has been around data catalog that we've created. So our business is built on data, and data is just the beginning, is sort of one of our brand messages. And that data catalog allows us to talk to customers data set first, as opposed to just talking about solutions or products that we sell. And that's been really successful in the interlock with the new Google Dataset Search. So that's a new service, a new search engine from Google that they launched earlier in the year. We've tried to humanize our websites more, web chat, for obviously web chat sales, but for B2B, just really trying to understand how we get the site closer to the customer, and even more important in this world where all of our sales teams are virtual as well. And then finally, another area which we've really doubled down on has been localization. So as the pandemic has impacted multiple areas of the world, or all areas of the world, shall I say, we've adapted our localization strategy to make sure that we're supporting customers in those spaces. So lots and lots of work.
Well, I know that you mentioned that your revenue is up actually for you guys for this year, despite the pandemic, and maybe in part because of the shift to digital. I think the foundation you mentioned you put in place gave you guys a bit of a head start for some of these channels. So often a lot of companies have really sort of fought to catch up. They kind of forced to catch up. As you think about 2021, as you think about moving forward, as some of that blue ocean now gets a little more crowded, what are some of the things you're thinking about that you think are going to be sort of key tenets of your 2021 strategy to maintain this momentum?
Yeah, so the growth we've seen from a digital, so sales won revenue from a digital originating in digital channels. Yeah, we've seen double-digit growth, as you would expect, obviously, like with the focus and obviously the investment that comes with that pivot as well. As we go to 2021, I think there's some really interesting themes coming through, and part of them is sort of driven by the challenges that we're seeing at the moment. And one of the biggest challenges, this digital fatigue. I must get invited to something like 50 or so webinars a week on various topics. Everybody wants to do a webinar because the channels that we have available have been restricted, and I think that fatigue is causing some audiences to switch off, and you can see that in some of the open rates, whether it's through email or engagement. The answer to that is really doing our job as marketeers better, and understanding the customer and their need, and being very targeted and purposeful with what we're communicating to them and how we're communicating. And I think a big underpinning element of that is customer data, and specifically in the context of a customer data platform. So being able to clash your first-party data, whether it's in Salesforce or your EDW or in your product, along with that third-party marketing data, and really starting to build that profile of a customer over time, and then using that to create that aligned approach in terms of execution, whether it's offsite or whether it's onto your websites. So I think that for me is going to be the key of 2021 is relevance. Nothing new from a marketing perspective, but relevance driven by that enhanced data platform, or understanding of data, and really acting on it.
Well, powerful idea that can be often be difficult to implement when you think about all the data sources and complexity of how to sort of make that relevance happen, especially in a digital format and especially at scale. Well, thank you so much today, Richard George from Refinitiv. Thank you for joining us here and for sharing a little more about your unpredictable pipeline.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Matt. Take care.